Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Trumbore with your nightly review for Thursday, January 31. Little NFL films action, get you fired up for the big game. All the controversy swirling around it. Idiot 49er made a dumb comment. I'm tired of Ray Lewis. Really don't care who wins, though, because my Jets aren't in it. Anyway, it is 4:04 p.m. Eastern Time. I was frantically trying to get the month-end numbers for today. The Dow Jones finished down 44 points to 13,865. S&P 500 and NASDAQ were down fractionally. For the week, we are down a little with a big jobs number tomorrow. The expectation is for 160,000 on the non-farm payroll side, and the unemployment rate staying unchanged at 7.8%. For January, my preliminary numbers are that the Dow Jones finished up 5.8%, S&P 500 5%, and NASDAQ up 4.1%. So you'll see all the stories how since 1950 the S&P has finished up 5% for the month of January 11 times and never had a down year. It's been up 16% or more for the year after a 5% January gain 10 of the 11 times. The other one was 1987, and the S&P did, despite the crash, still finish up 2%. Shares in Apple did not have a good month. They closed December 31st at $532 a share and finished January at $455. Gold closed at $1664. That's off about $11 for the month. Oil finished at $97.50, or up about $6. On the economic front, the weekly jobless claim figure came in up 368,000, which was quite a jump from the previous 2 weeks of around 330,000. So that's not good, but there's all kinds of seasonality involved in these early year figures. Some excellent data out of Chicago, though. The January Purchasing Managers Index came in at 55.6, much better than expected. It was 50.0 in December. That's good. December personal income was up a whopping 2.6%. However, this was because of many folks, the wealthy, pulling income forward to beat the anticipated New Year tax hike through accelerating their bonuses and dividend payments. December personal consumption was up 0.2%, slightly below expectations. In Europe, Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy is implicated in a growing scandal over secret cash payments to the ruling party and their politicians, including Rajoy himself. That's according to a newspaper, El País, the biggest daily in Spain. The party denied its leaders received the cash payments from construction companies. El País claims Rajoy has received €25,000 a year since 1997. Before the scandal broke, confidence in Spain's politicians was at an all-time low. 96% of Spaniards believe political corruption in their country is very high. Staying in Spain, Banco Santander announced it set aside a total of nearly 19 billion euro for bad loans and property losses last year. The bank did make a profit of $3 billion for 2012 due to its global operations, but that was down 59%. In Greece, public transport workers walked off the job in a 24-hour strike. A doctor's strike has left hospitals functioning with emergency staff. Dock workers began a 48-hour strike today that will leave islands without ferries for 2 days. Most public sector workers saw their incomes cut 25% the start of the year as part of the government's austerity program. In Germany, the unemployment rate dropped to 6.8%, matching a 2-decade low. Even though the German economy has stagnated, German retail sales for December fell 4.7% from a year ago, far worse than expected. Actually, the worst performance on the German retail front since March of 2009, the bottom of the recession. Dow Chemical, an important bellwether, said the second half of 2012 saw significant deterioration in the markets that they serve, particularly in China, though they are more optimistic on China going forward. Overall, the company suffered from the effects of a slow to no growth global environment. As they described it, Dow shares fell $2.40. In Syria, it is still unclear exactly what happened yesterday. I told you of 2 reports. One, that Israel struck a convoy transporting anti-aircraft missiles to Hezbollah in Lebanon. Another, that I told you yesterday from Syrian state television, said that Israel struck a military research facility near Damascus. So Syria, Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah condemned the attack, the one on the research facility, because Syria's military denied that a convoy was hit. Hezbollah's statement of support for the Assad regime didn't mention a convoy either. And Iran's deputy foreign minister said those who have had harsh approaches toward the conflict in Syria must now take effective measures against this aggression by Tel Aviv and consider the security of the region, hinting at some unspecified sort of retaliation. The Iranian deputy foreign minister said Israel should not rely on its Iron Dome missile shield. Iran and Hezbollah said Wednesday's strike was proof of Assad's longtime claim that the civil war is the work of outside groups. Russia said Moscow is taking urgent measures to clarify the situation in all its details. If this information is confirmed, we have a case of unprovoked attacks on targets in the territory of a sovereign state which grossly violates the UN Charter. Diplomats told the Associated Press that Iran is poised for a major technological update of its uranium enrichment program, allowing it to vastly increase production of the material that can be used for both reactor fuel and nuclear warheads. The diplomats said that Iran last week told the International Atomic Energy Agency that it wants to install thousands of new centrifuges at its main enriching plant at Natanz, and the new machines are estimated to be able to enrich up to 5 times faster than the present old equipment. Of course, Iran has this separate Fordo facility that has about 3,000 centrifuges, but that has been producing material enriched to 20%, whereas Natanz is enriched to only about 4% currently. Iran has depended on centrifuges whose design is decades old, and that's why this new high-tech model would make it able to increase its stockpile of enriched uranium at least 2 to 3 times the present rate, but probably closer to 5 times for the lower grade. Can you hear the wind in the background? North Korea has been placed under martial law. Kim Jong-un told his frontline troops to be ready for a war, according to South Korean media reports. In an emergency meeting of his top defense and security officials, Kim Jong-un issued a series of orders that included the conclusion of preparations for a new nuclear test, according to a South Korean paper. North Korean state media has also reported that Kim ordered his officials to take effective high-profile state measures. Now, it's been anticipated that Pyongyang will go ahead with a nuclear test, supposedly timed to coincide with the birthday on February 16th of Kim Jong-il, who died in late 2011. But it would seem that North Korea's progress makes a nuclear test more imminent. But as the New York Times reports, the American intelligence community is hoping the North conducts a test because it would provide insights into how much progress the North has made toward a weapon that could threaten the U.S. or its allies. Of course, Iran is also anxious to gauge Pyongyang's progress, as much to see what the rest of the world does in response. Mali is still dangerous. A Malian military spokesman said 4 Malian soldiers died and 5 others were wounded when their vehicle hit a landmine. Back in U.S. corporate news, the U.S. Justice Department filed a lawsuit to block Anheuser-Busch InBev's $20 billion acquisition of Grupo Modelo, the Mexican brewer, arguing that the deal would lead to price increases and deter competition. AB InBev's Bud Light is the best-selling beer in the U.S., and Modelo's Corona Extra is the best-selling import. But the combined company would control about 46% of the $80 billion U.S. beer market. Bill Baer, Assistant Attorney General, said, quote, if ABI fully owned and controlled Modelo, ABI would be able to increase beer prices to American consumers. This lawsuit seeks to prevent ABI from eliminating Modelo as an important competitive force in the beer industry. AB InBev said in a statement that it will vigorously contest the lawsuit. I drink mostly Coors Light myself, but when I want a premium domestic, I go for Shiner Bock or Yingling. After the close yesterday, Facebook reported a 40% fourth quarter revenue jump to $1.59 billion, and its strongest quarterly advertising growth for all of 2012. Its mobile advertising results stood out over the quarter. Facebook's overall ad revenue rose 41% to $1.33 billion, with mobile ads making up 23% of the total. In the prior quarter, mobile was 14% of the total. Facebook said that as of late December, 680 million users were actively accessing the social app on smartphones each month, up 57% from a year earlier. President Obama's favorable rating soared to 60% in a new Washington Post ABC News poll, the highest since his first year in office. Independents see him favorably by a 60-36 margin compared with 51-45 a year ago. Recall that independent voters backed Mitt Romney by a 6-point margin in November. But 80% of Republicans still have an unfavorable view of Obama, essentially the same as last year. The New York Times said on Thursday that Chinese hackers had persistently attacked its computers over the past 4 months in retaliation for a story on Premier Wen Jiabao and his family, but the hackers weren't able to access the sensitive material related to the report. In a statement, the Times said, security experts hired by the Times to detect and block the computer attacks gathered digital evidence that Chinese hackers, using methods that some consultants have associated with the Chinese military in the past, breached the Times network. Here in my home state of New Jersey, Democratic Senator Robert Menendez, the new chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and a key player in the effort to overhaul immigration laws, denied allegations that he consorted with prostitutes during trips to the Dominican Republic with a longtime friend and campaign donor whose South Florida office was recently raided by the FBI. Isn't that special? Menendez said any allegations of engaging with prostitutes are manufactured by a politically motivated right-wing blog and are false. Much more on this one, sports fans. If you want to check out the Super Bowl and the stock market, go to my Wall Street history link at stocksnews.com. This is proprietary information that I picked up first. 12 times the loser has scored more than 20 points. And in all 12, the market finished up for the year. Keep the men and women of our armed forces in your thoughts and prayers. Have a good weekend. I'll be back with you on Monday. Check out my weekend review, which I write all day Friday and post early Saturday morning. Take care.